Hey everyone. Today, we're talking about a true hero, Nelson Mandela, a man whose life and legacy have left an indelible mark on the world. He wasn't just a leader, he was a symbol of hope, resilience, and the fight for justice. Mandela's connection to some of the most important places around the globe is profound. These places are not just landmarks, they are living testaments to his struggle and triumph. Nelson Mandela's name means freedom and fairness. His journey from a young lawyer to the President of South Africa is a story of unwavering dedication to human rights and equality. He fought against unfair laws in South Africa, laws that segregated and oppressed people based on their race. His activism began in the 1940s and continued for decades, despite numerous arrests and trials. His fight was long and tough. Mandela spent 27 years in prison, most of them on Robben Island, where he endured harsh conditions but never lost his spirit or his vision for a free South Africa. But guess what? His bravery inspires people all over the world even today. From classrooms to global protests, Mandela's legacy lives on, teaching new generations about the power of standing up for what is right. A special group called UNESCO recognizes how important he was. UNESCO, the United Nations educational, scientific and cultural organization, works to preserve and promote cultural heritage around the world. They chose special places, called World Heritage Sites, that tell the story of Mandela's fight. These sites include Robben Island, where Mandela was imprisoned, and his house in Soweto, which has become a museum. These sites remind us that everyone deserves to be treated equally. They serve as powerful reminders of the struggles faced and the victories won in the fight against oppression. These places aren't just about the past. They're about making sure everyone is treated fairly, even today. They inspire ongoing efforts to combat discrimination and promote human rights worldwide. Mandela's message is super important. His words and actions continue to resonate, reminding us of the importance of justice, equality, and the power of the human spirit. He wants us all to work together to make the world a better place, a place where everyone is treated kindly. Mandela believed in the power of community and the importance of working together to achieve common goals. His vision was for a world where diversity is celebrated and everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Let's honor his legacy by continuing to fight for a fairer, more just world for all. Let's talk about a really sad time in South Africa's history called apartheid. This was a period marked by extreme racial segregation and discrimination, where the government enforced policies that separated people based on their skin color. It was a dark chapter that left deep scars on the nation and its people. Apartheid was a system where people were separated and treated differently because of their skin color. Signs that read "whites only" were common, and public facilities like bathrooms, parks, and even schools were segregated. This meant that black South Africans were denied access to the same quality of services and opportunities as white people. These unfair rules were even the law. The government passed numerous laws to ensure that racial segregation was maintained. Police and other authorities strictly enforced these laws, often using violence and intimidation to keep black South Africans in line. This created an atmosphere of fear and oppression. This went on from 1948 to the early 1990s. For over 4 decades, the apartheid system dictated every aspect of life in South Africa. Generations of black South Africans grew up under these harsh conditions, knowing nothing but the reality of segregation and discrimination. During apartheid, a small group of white people had all the power. They controlled the government, the economy, and the military. This minority group made decisions that benefited themselves while oppressing the majority of the population. The voices and needs of black South Africans were completely ignored. Black South Africans were treated badly and weren't allowed to do many things, like vote, own land, or even live where they wanted. They were forced to carry passbooks, which restricted their movements and dictated where they could go. Many lived in impoverished conditions, with limited access to education, healthcare, and employment opportunities. Apartheid was really mean and caused a lot of suffering. Families were torn apart and communities were destroyed. Protests and uprisings were met with brutal crackdowns by the police and military. The struggle for freedom and equality was long and painful, with many people losing their lives in the fight against this oppressive system. The fight against it was long and hard, but thankfully, it finally ended. In the early 1990s, after years of resistance and international pressure, the apartheid system began to crumble. Nelson Mandela, a key figure in the anti-apartheid movement, was released from prison, and in 1994, South Africa held its first democratic elections. The end of apartheid marked the beginning of a new era of hope and reconciliation for the nation. Now, let's talk about Nelson Mandela's life. He was born in 1918 in a small village. Growing up, he saw how unfair apartheid was, and this changed his life. He became a lawyer and joined a group called the African National Congress, or ANC. The ANC fought against apartheid. Mandela became a really important leader in the fight for freedom. He was a great speaker and inspired people with his messages of hope and standing up for what's right. He believed in peaceful protests, but he also knew that sometimes fighting back was necessary. The fight against apartheid didn't start with Mandela. It began long before he was born. Black South Africans always resisted the unfairness. They formed groups and protested against the bad laws. The ANC was one of these groups. It was started in 1912 to fight for the rights of black South Africans. Early on, these protests were stopped by the government, but people never gave up hope. These early efforts helped create the bigger movement that came later. Section 5. Defiance and Imprisonment. Mandela's Fight for Freedom. In the 1960s, the fight against apartheid got stronger. Mandela was a super important part of this. He helped start a secret group within the ANC called Umkhonto we Sizwe, or MK. This group fought back against the government. Mandela and other ANC leaders were arrested in 1964. They were put on trial, and Mandela was given a life sentence in prison. He spent the next 27 years behind bars, but he never gave up hope. Section 6. Beacons of Hope. Mandela Legacy. Sites and their significance. These sites are not just places on a map. They are living testaments to the enduring spirit of Nelson Mandela and the countless others who fought for freedom and equality in South Africa. The special UNESCO places connected to Mandela tell an important story. They are recognized globally for their cultural and historical significance, serving as beacons of hope and resilience. These sites are preserved to educate future generations about the struggles and triumphs of the past. They show important moments in his life and the fight against apartheid. From his early activism to his imprisonment and eventual presidency, these locations capture the essence of Mandela's journey and the broader struggle for justice and equality in South Africa. These sites are all over South Africa. Each one tells a unique part of the story, from the bustling streets of Johannesburg to the serene landscapes of the Eastern Cape. They are scattered across the country, each holding a piece of the larger narrative of resistance and change. Each one gives us a look into the past. Through historical reenactments, archival footage, and guided tours, visitors can immerse themselves in the experiences of those who lived through the apartheid era. These sites offer a tangible connection to history, making the past come alive. One of these places is Robben Island, where Mandela spent 18 years in prison. This isolated island became a symbol of the oppressive regime, but also of the unbreakable spirit of those who were imprisoned there. Mandela's cell, now a part of the museum, stands as a stark reminder of the sacrifices made for freedom. Now, it's a museum, and reminds us of how people resisted the unfair rules. The exhibits and educational tours provide deep insights into the lives of the prisoners and the harsh conditions they endured. It is a place of reflection and learning where the stories of resilience and resistance are kept alive. Another site is Constitution Hill, a former prison that is now a court. This site has been transformed from a place of oppression to one of justice. It stands as a powerful symbol of South Africa's journey from a divided past to a unified present. It shows how South Africa changed from a place of unfairness to a place with fair laws. The Constitutional Court, located on the site, is a testament to the country's commitment to human rights and justice. The transformation of Constitution Hill reflects the broader changes in South African society, moving from a history of inequality to a future of hope and equality. Section 7. The Long Walk to Reconciliation, Healing a Nation. When apartheid ended in 1994, it was a really big deal. It was a new beginning for South Africa. But it was hard to fix all the bad things that had happened. A group called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, or TRC, was created to help. The TRC let people talk about the bad things that happened to them. It also let people who did bad things say they were sorry. The TRC helped South Africa start to heal, but the memory of apartheid is still there. Section 8. Mandela's Global Impact, a Beacon for Human Rights. Nelson Mandela wasn't just important in South Africa, he became famous all over the world. People admired his bravery and his belief in fairness. His message of peace and forgiveness was heard everywhere. He even won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993 for helping to end apartheid. He used his fame to speak up against unfairness and fought for peace, equality, and human rights. Section 9. Continuing the Legacy, Mandela's Message for the Future. Nelson Mandela changed the world. His story still inspires people today. He taught us to stand up for what's right. He showed us that forgiveness is powerful. Mandela's message is super important today because there's still unfairness in the world. It's up to all of us to keep fighting for a world where everyone is treated with kindness and respect.